You've been lied to. Every week you walk past that bread aisle thinking you're making the healthy choice. That healthy brown bread with wheat on the package, it's probably just white bread in disguise. The industry has been tricking millions and making billions, while you think you're eating better. Here's what you need to know before your next grocery trip. Let me paint you a picture. Sarah is a busy mom trying to do the right thing for her family. She grabs the brown bread from the middle shelf, the one that says made with whole grains in big friendly letters. There's a wheat stalk on the package. It's got that wholesome wheat color. It costs $1 more than the white bread. It must be better, right? Wrong. What Sarah doesn't know is that she's holding something that researchers at Tufts University call one of the most deceptive products in the grocery store. In their study of over 1,000 shoppers, nearly half picked the wrong bread when trying to identify the healthier option. These weren't uneducated people. Many had college degrees. The labels are just that misleading. Here's what's actually happening. Take a closer look at that brown loaf. See that rich, earthy color? That warm, wholesome appearance that makes you think of fresh ground flour from a mill? That's not from whole wheat flour. That's caramel. Coloring. The exact same artificial coloring they put in your cola. Some manufacturers add molasses or brown sugar just to darken the appearance. It's literally makeup for bread. And it works brilliantly because our brains have been trained to associate brown with healthy and white with processed. The ingredient list tells the real story, but who has time to read those tiny letters while juggling kids and a shopping cart? The first ingredient says wheat flour or enriched wheat flour. Sounds healthy, doesn't it? Sounds like something your grandmother would approve of. Here's the catch. All flour comes from wheat. White bread is made from wheat. Calling it wheat bread is like selling bottled water as hydrogen dioxide beverage. Technically true, but completely meaningless. It's a semantic trick designed to make you feel good about your purchase. What you're actually getting is refined flour that's been stripped of its nutritional value, then colored brown to look healthy. The bran and germ, the parts that contain fiber, vitamins, and minerals, have been removed. What's left is mostly starch. To make up for the nutrient loss, manufacturers enrich it with synthetic vitamins. But calling this health food is like taking apart an orange, throwing away most of it, adding back vitamin C pills, and calling it equivalent. A registered dietitian named Dwayne Meller from Aston Medical School put it plainly. Manufacturers enhance the color depth to mislead people into believing they're making nutritious choices when they're not. Walk down any bread aisle and you'll see a festival of health claims. Multigrain, 12 grain, made with whole grains, ancient grains, honey wheat. Every package screams nutrition. But here's what food scientists from Harvard and NYU discovered. These terms are deliberately designed to confuse you. Multigrain sounds impressive. Your brain pictures a symphony of nutritious grains working together for your health. The reality? It just means more than one grain is present. And every single one of those grains could be refined and processed. You might be getting corn, rice, and wheat, all stripped of nutrients and dyed brown. The Center for Science in the Public Interest found that products can even use caramel coloring to make them look like they contain more whole grains than they actually do. Then there's the whole grain stamp that you see on packages. That friendly little logo created by the Whole Grains Council. People trust it, but here's what they don't tell you. A product only needs 8 grams of whole grains per serving to get that stamp. 8 grams. The rest can be refined white flour, sugar, and additives. It's like putting one organic apple on top of a pile of candy and calling the whole thing healthy. Let's talk about wheat bread for a second. This one gets people every single time. You see wheat bread and your brain registers whole wheat bread. They're counting on that. But legally, they can call any bread made from wheat, wheat bread. And since virtually all bread is made from wheat, this term means absolutely nothing. It's white bread with a tan. Food economist Park Wild from Tufts University studied consumer understanding of these labels and found something shocking. Even people with advanced degrees couldn't figure out how much whole grain was actually in these products. In one test, about half of participants incorrectly identified breads and crackers as having at least 50% whole grain when they contained far less. The labels aren't just confusing, according to NYU professor Jennifer Pomerantz. They meet the legal standard for being misleading and deceptive. The FDA has known about this problem since 2006. They published draft guidance on whole grain labeling, but here we are, nearly 2 decades later, and it's still just guidance, not binding regulations. There's no legal requirement for manufacturers to tell you what percentage of their bread is actually whole grain. As long as they don't make specific health claims that cross into false advertising, they can play word games all day long. Let's get scientific for a minute, because this is where it matters. A true whole grain contains 3 parts: the bran, the germ, and the endosperm. Think of it like an egg. The bran is the shell. It's packed with fiber and B vitamins. The germ is like the yolk, full of healthy fats, vitamin E, and minerals. The endosperm is the white part, mostly starch and protein. When manufacturers make refined flour, they remove the bran and germ. Why? Because those parts contain oils that can go rancid, shortening shelf life. They're harder to process. They make the bread denser and darker. So they strip them out, grind the endosperm into fine white powder, and you're left with refined flour that can sit on a shelf for months. Now here's where it gets interesting. The FDA definition of whole grain says the parts need to be present in the same relative proportions as they exist in the intact grain. But, and this is crucial, those parts don't have to be together. Manufacturers can separate everything, process it heavily, then recombine it. Technically, it meets the definition, but nutritionally, it's not the same as eating an intact grain. A study published in Public Health Nutrition found that between 29 and 47% of consumers incorrectly chose less healthy products as healthier options when whole grain claims were present on the label. Think about that. The labels are so misleading that nearly half of people make the wrong choice. When you eat refined grains, they break down quickly into sugar. Your blood glucose spikes. Your pancreas dumps out insulin. Over time, this pattern is linked to increased risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and weight gain. Real whole grains, on the other hand, contain fiber that slows digestion. They keep you full longer. They feed the beneficial bacteria in your gut. They provide sustained energy instead of spikes and crashes. If you're finding this eye-opening, do me a favor. Hit that like button so more people can see the truth about what's really in their bread. And stick around, because I'm about to show you exactly how to spot real whole wheat bread in about 10 seconds flat. Subscribe if you want more content that exposes what the food industry doesn't want you to know. Here's a test. Pick up that brown bread you think is healthy. Look at the nutrition label. How much fiber does it have per slice? If the answer is less than 3 grams, you've been fooled. Real whole grain bread should have at least 3 to 4 grams of fiber per slice. Many of these imposter brown breads, they barely scrape together 1 gram, the exact same as white bread. But wait, it gets sneakier. Some manufacturers caught on to consumers checking fiber content, so they started adding it artificially. You'll see ingredients like cellulose fiber, chicory root fiber, or inulin. These are isolated fibers extracted from plants, sometimes even wood pulp, and added to boost the numbers on the nutrition panel. Yes, you read that right, wood pulp. Is added fiber the same as natural fiber from whole grains? Not according to nutrition experts. The fiber in whole grains comes packaged with vitamins, minerals, and beneficial compounds that work synergistically. Isolated fiber added to refined bread doesn't deliver the same health benefits. It's like the difference between eating an orange and taking a vitamin C pill. Technically, you get vitamin C both ways, but your body recognizes the difference. One is food, the other is fortification. Consumer Reports tested this and found that some breads claiming to be double fiber achieved those impressive numbers through added fibers, not through using more whole grains. One researcher described it as manufacturers trying to crack the code on appearing healthy without actually being healthy. They're gaming the system, and the nutrition label becomes their scoreboard instead of your guide. The European Union has stricter rules about this. In many European countries, you can't call something whole grain unless it actually meets specific compositional standards. But in the United States, Australia, New Zealand, and much of Asia, these terms remain loosely defined, creating what one recent analysis called growing tension between how bread is made and how it's marketed. Let's talk about what else is hiding in that loaf. True whole wheat bread should have about 4 or 5 ingredients: whole wheat flour, water, salt, and yeast. Maybe some seeds or honey. That's it. Pick up most commercial brown breads and the ingredient list reads like a chemistry experiment. You'll find datum, sodium stearoyl lactylate, mono and diglycerides, calcium propionate, azotocarbonamide. These are dough conditioners, emulsifiers, and preservatives. Some of these raise eyebrows. Azotocarbonamide is the same chemical used in yoga mats and shoe rubber. It's banned in Europe and Australia. In the United States, perfectly legal in your sandwich bread. Caramel coloring can contain compounds linked to cancer in animal studies. California requires warning labels on certain levels. Your bread might not warn you at all. High fructose corn syrup appears in many commercial breads, even those marketed as healthy. Research links it to heart disease, elevated triglycerides, and reduced insulin sensitivity. Many whole grain breads contain 2 to 4 grams of added sugar per slice. 2 slices equals the sugar in a small cookie. Okay, enough doom and gloom. Let me give you the tools to find genuinely healthy bread in about 10 seconds. Here's your checklist. Step 1. Ignore everything on the front of the package. Seriously, the front is advertising space. The health claims, the wheat stalks, the rustic fonts, the pictures of grains, all marketing. Don't even look at the color of the bread. Brown means nothing. Step 2. Flip to the ingredient list. The very first ingredient, not the second, not the third, but the first, must say 100% whole wheat flour or whole wheat flour. If it says wheat flour, enriched wheat flour, or unbromated wheat flour, put it back. Those are refined flours. Some acceptable first ingredients: whole wheat flour, whole grain wheat flour, whole durum wheat flour, stone ground whole wheat. The key word is whole. No whole, no deal. Step 3, check for caramel color in the ingredients. If you see it, you're looking at a product that's relying on fake color instead of real whole grains. Molasses is sometimes used for color too, but it also adds sweetness and a distinct flavor, so it's a bit more defensible. Still, if the bread needs coloring to look healthy, that tells you something. Step 4, look at the fiber content. At least 3 grams per slice, preferably 4 or more. If a bread claims to be whole grain but only has 1 or 2 grams of fiber, they're either lying or using such a small amount of whole grain that it's nutritionally irrelevant. Step 5, count the ingredients. Real bread doesn't need a novel-length ingredient list. If you're seeing 20 ingredients, 15 of which you can't pronounce, keep looking. Some excellent whole grain breads have fewer than 10 ingredients total. Step 6, consider the price and location. This sounds snobby, but hear me out. Real whole grain bread often costs more and sits in the freezer section or health food aisle. Why? Because whole grains contain oils that can go rancid. Truly fresh, preservative-free whole grain bread doesn't last as long on the shelf. Companies like Food for Life make Ezekiel bread and keep it frozen because it's made from sprouted whole grains with no preservatives. It's in the freezer for a reason. It's real. Let me give you some specific brands that consistently pass the test. Ezekiel 4-9, Sprouted Grain Bread, Dave's Killer Bread, most varieties, Alvarado Street Bakery, Vermont Bread Company, Organic Whole Wheat, and Rudy's Organic Bakery 100% whole wheat. If you shop at Trader Joe's, their sprouted wheatberry bread is solid. One interesting option, sourdough. Real sourdough undergoes fermentation that breaks down some of the starches and gluten, potentially making it easier to digest. The fermentation also produces compounds that may benefit your gut bacteria. Just make sure it's actually fermented sourdough. Some commercial sourdough just has sourdough flavoring added to regular bread. You might be thinking, does it really make that big a difference? Let's look at what happens in your body. When you eat refined grains, they digest rapidly. Blood sugar shoots up, your body releases insulin. Over time, with repeated spikes, cells can become resistant to insulin. That's the path to type 2 diabetes. Research consistently shows diets higher in whole grains correlate with lower risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and premature death. Fiber feeds your gut microbiome, trillions of bacteria influencing your immune function and mood. Fiber-rich diets lower inflammation, maintain healthy cholesterol, and keep you feeling full. Studies show people consuming 25 to 29 grams of fiber daily have broad protection against major chronic diseases. Here's the problem. 75% of Americans don't get adequate fruits and vegetables, and whole grains should fill that fiber gap. When whole grain bread isn't actually whole grain, people think they're getting fiber when they're not. The deception has real consequences. Parents buying brown bread for kids think they're building healthy habits. People with diabetes think they're choosing blood sugar-friendly food. Athletes think they're getting sustained energy. Often, they're getting refined carbohydrates behaving like white bread. If you're paying $2 extra per loaf twice monthly for fake whole grain bread, that's $50 yearly wasted. Multiply by millions doing the same, and you're looking at a massive industry built on deception. Think that healthy brown bread is actually whole grain? Think again. Terms like wheat bread, multigrain, and made with whole grains can be misleading. The whole grain stamp only requires 8 grams of whole grain. The rest can be refined flour. Real whole wheat bread has whole wheat flour first, at least 3 grams of fiber per slice, and a short ingredient list. Check your bread at home, read labels carefully. Share this video with anyone buying healthy brown bread, especially parents. Hit like to spread the truth, comment what shocked you most, and subscribe for more exposés on what the food industry doesn't want you to know. Next up, breakfast cereals. What you think is healthy might surprise you. Stay sharp, stay skeptical, stay healthy.